Hi guys, this is section 2.1, which is adding rational numbers. There's going to be 5 sections. Number 1 is adding 2 positive numbers, which I'm going to skip to save time. Adding 2 negative numbers. The third one is going to be adding 1 positive and 1 negative number. The fourth one is evaluating expressions. And the fifth one is adding matrices. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to skip number 1, which is adding 2 positive numbers. You should know how to do that. Number 2 is a review for adding 2 negative numbers. Couple different strategies of doing it. One way is to use a number line. So if you have -3 plus -5, you can start at -3 on the number line, which is there. And if you're going -5, that means you need to go left 5 units, and you end up at -8. So -3 plus -5 is -8. Another strategy for adding negatives is if they're the same, so if they're both negative, you can just add the absolute values and add in the negative at the end. So absolute value of -3 is +3. Absolute value of -5 is +5. That equals to 8, and you can just put in the negative at the end and end up with -8. So either way, it works out. So here's another quick one. Start at -2. Go over 4 because I'm adding a -4. And my answer would be -6, which is down here. Okay, if I did absolute value, I would just get absolute value of -2 plus absolute value of -4. So 2 plus 4 is 6. Add the negative in at the end, and you get -6. So that's how you add 2 negative numbers. Okay. Number 3 is adding 1 positive and 1 negative number. So I'm using green for positive and red for negative. So I can still do the number line way. I can start at 5 because I'm starting at 5. And if I'm going to plus -3, that means I need to go left 3 units and end up at 2. Another simple way of doing that is just saying 5 minus 3, which is 2. Okay. If you use the absolute value method, because they're different, you need to subtract. So in this case, absolute value of 5 is 5, and then minus the absolute value of -3 is 3. And you always want to do the bigger number minus the smaller number. So 5 minus 3 is 2. And since the green one is bigger, it's a +2. Okay, if I have -7 plus 4, I could start at -7, which is this one. And plus 4 means I go to the right 4. And I end up over here, which is at -3. So my answer would be -3. If I did it the absolute value way, because the 7 is bigger, I'm going to put 7 minus the 4. And I end up with 3 reds, because 7 reds minus the 4 greens. So my answer would actually be -3, because the 7 is bigger. Another way of looking at it is if I went 4 plus -7. If you wanted to have the positive in front, you could do that as well, but that could be a little confusing. So whichever one is bigger, subtract the smaller one. And if the negative was bigger, you end up with a negative answer. Okay, the next one is evaluating expressions, number 4. If x is -4, what's x plus 5. So I just substitute in the -4, and I do the same thing that I've done with the other, either with the line graph or with the absolute value. And -4 plus 5 would equal to 1, because 5 I could rewrite it. So if I wanted to rewrite it with the positive in front, 5 plus -4, which is the same as 5 minus 4, which is this 1. Okay. And here's why you want to use parentheses when you substitute numbers in. If I have -x, it actually becomes -4 plus 5. And a -4 actually becomes a +4 plus 5, which is 9. So my answer would be 9 in that case. Okay, in this example over here, x is -3. I'm just going to switch colors so you can see something different. If I put it in here, I would get absolute value of -3 like that. And the absolute value of -3 is equal to 3. So my answer would be 3. If the negative is outside of the absolute value, I would put a negative absolute value of -3 here. This absolute value of -3 becomes +3, but this negative is on outside, so it actually becomes -3. Be careful, I wanted to show you this. The difference between this negative and this one. This one is with parentheses. So if you have negative 4 in parentheses, it becomes a positive 4. But if you have a negative 3 in the absolute value, you have to solve this absolute value of negative 3. So this becomes a 3, but the negative's outside, so your answer would be negative 3. Okay. And on this one, it would be 7 plus 3 times negative 3. So using PEMDAS, that becomes 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. So 7 plus negative 9. And since the negative 9 is bigger, when you subtract it, you get 2, but it becomes negative 2. Okay. And that's evaluating expressions. The last one is going to be adding matrices. This is my high-tech way of doing things. So adding matrices. First thing is the matrix, that the two matrices that you add have to be the same dimension. So in this case, I have 1 column and three rows. So 1 by 3, 1 by 3. This one here would be an illegal one because you can see I went 1, 2, 3, but over here I have 2 columns. So you would not be able to do one like this. When I did this way, I color coded for you, so you can see it's going to be the same colors or the same position. So in this case, I'm going to go 3 plus negative 2. So 3 plus negative 2 is like saying 3 minus 2. So at the top, it'd be 1. Across the middle, I'm going to use a square. 4 plus 6 is equal to 10. So you can just see this goes right across. And then in the green on the bottom, negative 5 plus negative 4 is equal to negative 9. So your answer matrix will look like the two that you're adding. Okay, all you're doing is adding the same corresponding part. So if I have a 2 by 2 like this one and I'm adding, I'm going to add this one plus this one. So 2 plus 8, and I'm going to put it in the same top left-hand corner and get 10. Then for the right corner, I'd square it off just so you can kind of see. You don't have to square it. I'm just doing it so you can see what I'm adding. So now when I add these two, negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7, and it goes in the top right-hand corner, same place. Now with the green, I'm going to do 7 plus negative 2, same as saying 7 minus 2, which is 5. And on the last one for the blue, I'm going to say negative 9 plus negative 5. So you can see I'm going to do these two. So negative 5 plus negative 9 plus negative 5 is negative 14. And you can see this was a 2 by 2, this was a 2 by 2, so my answer is a 2 by 2, and I just put it in the corresponding part. And again, this one you cannot do. Okay. I hope this helps. Take care.